My pleasure. Okay, thank you. My name is Stanley. I'm the project coordinator with NYPIRG, the New York Public Interest Research Group, and these are your constituents. And you know, we've come here today because we're very concerned about the state of higher education in New York State at the moment. As you know, SUNY and CUNY has suffered over $790 million in cuts over the last couple of years, and the price of tuition has skyrocketed by more than 34% over the last 15 years. And we have students who just kind of want to have a chance to talk to you and see where you're coming from and tell their story as well. So, you know, we have a packed house. It'd be great if everyone could have a chance to talk, but for now we're going to start off with this side. So I'm going to give the floor to them.
Hi, Walter. Nice to meet you, Francisco. Is it cool if I call you Francisco?
Francisco.
Alright, cool.
To everybody.
All right. Well, I'm sure you're very concerned with the economy. So, what do you think we should do as far as education goes versus the economy in order to, you know, fix the budget deficits?
So let me give you a quick explanation of what we've done in the South, because you have a real partner in the South. So we have brought back some of the cuts that were made to CUNY and to SUNY in our budget proposal, which we're actually going to be voting on today. So we've restored close to 50% of what was taken out of the executive budget. We've restored back for CUNY. When it comes to SUNY universities, we've put in something about like $6.6 million back into SUNY, and SUNY is their hospitals as well, because there's a lot of SUNY training that goes in for folks that want to, you know, go into the medical field. You know, we've restored that back. So we're doing a lot to close that gap, given the fact that we are going to push forward so that we can continue to have the millionaires tax go through. If we have that, that's going to generate close to $1 billion, maybe a little bit under $1 billion, because we've worked that formula. So if you've been listening to what's been going on in the debates that have been going on about the extension of the millionaiires tax, anybody knows what that is? Or?
Yeah, the millionaiires tax is basically their cutoff point, which is $106,000.
It's $250,000 per couple. So now we've taken that out, because let's say, you know, you're married, you make $100,000, and your husband makes another $100,000. You got 4 kids, you got going to school. You know, a lot of people have some problems with that. So what it is now it's a true millionaire's tax. If you make $1 million in the state of New York, you're going to get taxed. You know, it's going to be an extension of that. That's going to generate enough funds to close the gaps that we've put forward in our budget proposal. And then let me just tell you a little bit about me and how I feel about, you know, higher education. Now, I grew up in a place called Corona, Queens, and if anybody here is from Corona, you know, raise your hand. Well, I grew up there, right? And I started out very young. I was 15 years old when I first got involved. I went to St. John's University, and then I went to Baruch. I got my master's in public administration. I'm a National Urban Fellow. But I know that CUNY and SUNY is really the stepping stone for most of us out of poverty. And we need to make sure that we who are in government are fighting for you so that you have an opportunity to get a good quality education. That's the most important thing in the world. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you're spending money on a car, you know, you're spending money on clothes, that don't mean a thing. They can take your house, they can take your car, they can take the clothes off your back, they can never take away your education. You know, I finished paying off my student loans. It was the happiest day of my life. It was the best thing I ever did. It's true, because you make an investment in yourself, right? So, you know, I always wanted to go into government. That's what I always wanted to do. I knew it from the very beginning. I got a job. I was offered to go work in Washington, D.C. I worked for 2 members of Congress. And I didn't know anybody. I got called on a Thursday. They said, hey, you want a job? I said, hell yeah. You know, they're like, you got to be here on Monday. I left everything I had. My dad bought me a 1-week Greyhound bus ticket to D.C. I worked for a woman by the name of Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez, who I love dearly. Slept in her office for a week because I had nowhere to stay.
Oh, wow.
And then I found a studio basement apartment in the worst area in Washington, D.C. And I stayed there for a number of years. And it's the way you climb back. It's the fact that you have a determination to get wherever it is that you want to get to, whether it's public office, whether it's, you know, to be an attorney or a teacher, a doctor, whatever it is. You need our support. right? Because you got to concentrate on getting that education, getting the good grades, because everybody looks at that. We're always at a disadvantage. You know, we in communities of color will always work at a disadvantage. That's why we have to work hard. So I want to make sure that you know that we're going to do everything necessary so you have the right tools and the right funding, so that you don't have to make that choice of whether I'm not going to go to school or I am.
Yeah.
Thank you, Assembly Member Moya.
Francisco.
Do you believe that the cuts proposed for SUNY and CUNY are the result of there being many disenfranchised students?
You know, I think that the way the budget process always works is let's cut, you know, in communities of color. You know, let's cut in areas where, you know, it's the most vulnerable, right? Because you have a large mass. So more people use it, a lot more money gets spent. You know, I think that for us, who are looking at this and saying, hold on a second, you know, we have to look at the fact that we cannot be cutting from the most needy. And we know that we have to make some cuts. Look, this is a tough economic time. We're in a bad economic situation. And, you know, there's a difference between a 2% cut and an 8% cut. You know, an 18% cut. And that's what's been sort of the boundaries between these things. We have to work to make sure that we can restore as much of that as possible. You know, that's just the way they go. They cut where they need to go, and they think that they can get the most money.
Mr. Francisco,
Yeah.
I just kind of, you know, want to narrow the conversation a little bit with two questions. There's been rumblings of, pardon me, an $845 cut towards Pell funding for every student, as well as you already know, the $75 per student for TAP, and the new rule that said that graduate students cannot receive TAP, and if your GPA is under 2.0, you cannot receive TAP. Has there been any changes with this new budget that you guys are pushing?
I think with TAP, yes. With the other one, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at that. But with TAP, yes, I know there was. I don't think I have it here, but
Is it the TAP for undergrad or graduate students?
undergrad.
Graduate students get TAP.
So I don't have that one in front of me.
And
I haven't
Pell?
looked at it. I'd have to look. I'd have to look at that.
Also, I'd like to know.
Yeah.
I'd like to know when exactly are these new legislative rules going to go into play? So basically, I know you said that you're putting 50% back in from what they were going to take out, meaning if it's
Hey,
the
it's me.
95.
Can you get Megan on? No, okay.
Oh, if it's the $95.1 million from CUNY that they were going to take, that means you're going to put back in about, say, 47, 48 million.
So they're not rules we're putting in. So what we're doing is we're responding to the executive budget. So the assembly is putting in their own budget proposal.
Oh,
okay,
so
in response to what the governor put in.
okay, so in response to what the governor put in, you guys are having a rebuttal, like, hey, let's not take this much, but let's take this much. But
Can you do me a favor
what I
and
was-
check on the, what was it? Pell?
Pell, $845 per student.
845 per student in Pell. Can you check what we did in the assembly budget proposal? And just give me a shot back. Got it. Perfect. Thank you. We'll find out for you.
But yeah, I know because everything is like a timeline frame as far as legislation goes. It goes through all of these processes, through all of these hands, making sure that.
Once you come to the floor, you'll see what happened today. Yeah.
Nice.
You'll see what's gonna happen. You guys wanna come to the floor? You get a nice picture.
What time?
I gotta leave in about 5 minutes.
Wow.
I'll let you, I don't know what your schedule's like, but,
We actually have another appointment at 2 o'clock.
so then go do your appointment.
Uh-huh.
Call Angelica from my office.
Okay.
And if you guys have time, come down to the chamber, we'll walk you in, and we'll take an official photo if you wanna do that.
Okay, so, just guys, any more, another question
I
before?
gotta run, they're already.
Oh, you do? Okay, I'm sorry about that. So, thank you very much for your time.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I gotta run.
Okay, you made a statement earlier. You said someone could take away your house, they could take away your car, you know, but your education, no one could take that away from you. I found out. I think that's very true. But if that's something no one could take away from you and that's an investment to yourself, why? I understand cuts need to be made, because it has to in order for the balance of money to continue. But why would you take away from something so vital to an individual?
We're not taking it away, we're restoring it.
Yeah.
See, you have to, I want you guys to differentiate the two. The governor put in his proposal and his cuts. We're responding back by putting the restoration into to certain programs in CUNY. So what we're doing is we're actually helping to close the gap of the cuts that have been proposed by the governor.
To CUNY?
To CUNY and SUNY.
Oh, okay.
Okay? That's what you guys have to understand. There's two proposals.
Oh.
One that was submitted by the governor, one that we're submitting ourselves now in response to that. The Senate will do the same. And then we'll have to come to some type of agreement to pass an on-time budget April 1. I gotta run because session started,
Thank you
so.
very much. Is that the ticket card?
Yeah.